right, let's get started. Good afternoon. My name is Justin McAdam. I am the chairman of the Distress Unit Appeals Board. Thank you for joining us today. This is our March 30th, 2023 meeting. We have posted notice in accordance with the open door law. As is our custom, we will take public comment at the beginning of the meeting. One person signed up for public comment here at the start, but wish to make public comment, please notify Pete here to my right before we get there. Before we move to public comment, we will go through the minutes from our February 23rd public meeting and our March 20th executive session meeting. Those were circulated in advance of the meeting to the members. Are there any comments, corrections, or additions that need to be made to those minutes? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes from February 23rd and the March 20th, 2023. I'm sorry, let me amend that, please. I would make a motion, we approve the minutes from the February 23rd, 2023 public meeting and the March 20th, 2023 executive session.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Yeah, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Kubaki?
Yes.
Chairman McAdam?
We will move to public comment. The only person who signed up for public comment is Mrs. Lavetta Tyndall. Come to the microphone, podium. Good afternoon.
I wonder if you would consider giving Mr. Miller's phone number to the public for those that are wanting to call in. You asked if they are interested, that they call in.
So Mr. Miller's phone number is posted on our website. You can reach his office number. Return your call if he's not there. Otherwise, we do have an ability for people to join us virtually. I believe either with video. Well, you can't join with video. But you can watch the video, but you can also just join via phone and make comments that way.
But the people that are listening may not have access to his phone number if you don't give it to them.
Well, there's a phone number for the WebEx conference system,
That's right.
which they can speak with, and as long as I have advance notice, we'll be happy to let anybody comment.
I don't think you understand. You just indicated to the public that they could call in if they wanted to
That's correct.
be involved with the meeting today. If they're going to call in, they need a number. If you've not given them a number, they have no access to the meeting.
Yes, so the WebEx link is available. I believe it's part of the public notice that you put out. So that's the appropriate way to interface through the meeting. If you otherwise want to reach Mr. Miller or myself, there is a public number you can reach us, but not as part of the meeting.
If you ask people to join the meeting, Mr. McAdam, by calling in, they have to have a number to call in, Mr. McAdam. And I'm suggesting that you give them the number if you want them to call in.
I appreciate it. I think maybe we're speaking past each other, but if you'd like to proceed with your comments, that would be fine.
You don't have a response other than that.
I think I've given them.
Good afternoon. My name is Mrs. Lavetta Tyndall of the great city of Gary, Indiana. I'm a 1966 graduate of the awesome Gary, Indiana Theodore Roosevelt High School. I have passed on a poem to you, and I hope you will read it. Some of you, I'm not sure, have access to information about inventions of Black people, members of our society who have been entrepreneurs and have provided inventions. Comb, brush, letter drop box, air conditioner. Those are examples of some of the things that people in the Black race have invented. Secondly, the Gary Crusader newspaper, I issued a February 18th, 2023 edition. And regarding the book vending machine accessible to our students, which our current manager of the Gary schools has highlighted as being an addition and something that we should be applauding. I want to mention that if you read there on page 9, the information regarding the book vending machines, you will find that the coin that's needed to gain access to the vending machine is awarded to those students based on their behavior and performance in the class. It is not something that's readily available to all students. And this reminds me of slavery times when books were limited to the privileged and selected few. I want to know what was the rationale for placing libraries with vending machines. I want to know why aren't librarians a part of our school system? I want to know if the salary offered to the libraries in the application process, if it was a competitive salary. I want to know how does low reading scores, not low reading scores, but students that are experiencing low reading scores, how are they encouraged to read these, to be involved with the vending machines? It seems to me to be unlikely. Students who benefit from such vending machines, who are they? How are they identified, and are they really receiving a benefit? Why are the DUAB meeting videos no longer available? I wasn't able to find one when I looked yesterday. Why are the press releases regarding monthly meetings available 2 to 3? Why can't they be available 2 to 3 weeks prior to the meeting? If education is the door to opportunities, why are DUAB and MGT, current Gary Community School Corporation administration, pushing so hard to cripple our school system? We want an elected school board administrator again here in Gary, Indiana. We want the current chief administrator of our school system to be replaced with a non-dictatorial, integrous administrator who attends advisory board meetings. And if they cannot attend, send a representative. We want one who is sensitive to and respectful of students and parents.
Mrs. Kendall, the 3 minutes has expired. If you could please conclude.
Thank you. I think you might have, I don't know how you felt about a meeting that last attended with the Ways and Means Committee. And one of the presenters there stated that when a student enters a room, they can earn 3%. They will be acknowledged as having 3% reading level just at entering the room. And so while we have an administrator that is expecting our community to applaud a 3% reading level is ridiculous and insulting. In reading stores, which are achieved by entering a room and being seated, one can readily achieve a 3% reading score. That's an example of how we are being disserviced in Gary, Indiana. I will repeat to you as the head of this committee and to the board members, we don't like the present administration. We don't like MGT. We don't want MGT and DUAB to continue to be involved in our school system. We're not serving us as we need to be served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kendall. Appreciate your time. That was all we had signed up for public comment today. It is spring break in Gary Community Schools, and so we do not have Dr. McNulty with us today as we normally would, but she will be back to join us again. She has taken a vacation with her family, much deserved. So we are going to move to our school improvement fund claims docket. We have Cole Wolverton with us virtually. The docket was submitted in advance of the meeting, and invite anyone to ask questions of Ms. Wolverton regarding that claims docket. Nicole, one question in terms of, as we pivot to the summer, obviously that's been an important time for capital projects in the district. How do things stand? Are we ready to, or getting ready to tackle those projects, and what are the big projects that will be tackled over the summer?
So we have been gearing up, sorry, good afternoon. We have been gearing up for the summer months, making sure that all of our air conditioning units are online and in working order. We've made vast improvements into all of our HVAC and plumbing as well. So we're making sure that summer school is set and ready to go. And then also we've identified projects that we can start looking forward to repairs for the fall as well. So we're looking back into going into cold season, making sure that our additional boilers, other heating items as well are in repair and identified as we can progress.
Other questions for Nicole? Okay, hearing none, we need a motion to approve the claims docket.
I move that we approve the claims docket as presented.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Ms. Kubaki,
Yes. Yeah.
Chairman McAdam,
Yes.
5-0.
Right. Approved unanimously. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us today. Well, I guess you're still joining us for the remainder of the meeting because it's all about contracts as well. First, we have an update from Mr. Miller regarding 3 contracts that he has approved in the interim since our last meeting. So I'll let him speak to those and then we can address all those questions together.
These are all 3 vendors that Gary has worked with in the past. All of them funded through ESSER. The first one was Smeckens. I always think I'm pronouncing the name wrong, so I apologize if I got them wrong, but it's for $50,000, $880 through ESSER 3. Gary utilizes a 90-minute reading block, and so the consultants there will conduct training sessions at each of the elementary schools, helping them follow best practices as far as how that 90-minute reading block is used. So they will host 4 sessions throughout the next school year. Next is Gary Construction. There's a couple fences that are being removed at Gary Middle School and Bethune Elementary. Total cost of that is $70,000, $70,600. In addition to removing the fence, that'll patch up the ground that's been disturbed and so forth. I believe at the middle school, they are, I'm sorry, at the elementary school, there's also an old playground that they're removing that equipment from as well. That's answer 2. And then the last is iReady, the vendor there is Curriculum Associates. We all know that they use iReady for their testing and assessments for formative testing. There are some workbooks that go along with that students will take and fill out, and so can't be reused. So they have to purchase those as those run out. So that's what they call consumables, because it's a one-time use per student. So that's used for all the subjects, ELA, reading, and math. Total cost there was $56,820 and change, and that was out of ESSER 3.
Any questions regarding these 3 contracts? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Next, we'll move to 4 contracts that require our approval as they're over the $250,000 threshold. I'm going to let Ms. Wolverton work through those contracts for us. I'll let you present each of the 4, and then we can take questions on all of them at the end.
So the first contract for your consideration is with First Student, our bus transportation provider. On February 27th, the district held an RFP for transportation services for this upcoming school year. We received 3 bids from Illinois Central, First Student, and Safeway Transportation Services. On March 2nd, we held some virtual interviews with First Student and Safeway Transportation. And then internally, we developed a rubric, which is included in your package for your review as well. And based on the grading of that rubric, our recommendation was first student. We feel confident that first student is committed to providing a competitive starting wage for their drivers of $23 an hour, along with a $3,000 driver sign-on bonus. They've also identified and secured a local property here in Gary, and they feel very confident that they'll be able to start fulfilling our summer school services as of July 1 if awarded. And then also they are committed to working back towards a two-tier bell system. If you remember, we had this previously in the past, and it was a recommendation of Illinois Central for this school year based on the driver shortages that we go back to a three-tier bell system. Preferably two-tier would work best for our district. It's safer for our students to who are walking, especially in transportation services, to allow for time of start and school hours to end at a more conducive time for their safety. And then I did invite Peter Rudnick is the representative from First Student. He is on this call as well if you have any direct questions. But just to also give a little bit of back history on terms of financials. Currently, Illinois Central annualized, along with the additional services that we've had to partner with because they haven't been able to fulfill all of our routes. We're working with EverDriven and incandescent services. So based on annualizing those expenses for the school year, we're looking at approximately $4 million in transportation costs for the school year. Based on the bids received from First Student, we're looking at a $4.7 million cost for the following school year for 2023, 2024.
Thank you. Go ahead and you can present each of the next contracts. We'll take them each.
And so then our next contract was RJB Properties, and that's for janitorial services. On July 31st, we had 6 bids for janitorial services. We interviewed the 3 finalists, which were based on the lowest bid amounts. Internally, we did the same process of scoring a rubric, and based on those scores, RJB was our recommendation for janitorial services. Currently, we are paying about an estimated $3.5 million with our current vendor, and the bid for RJB services is about 2.4. So this would be about a $1.1 million cost savings for the district. RJB is a close firm. They're Chicago based. They are a leading firm that has several K through 12 clients, as well as some higher education clients. They are a minority based company. And we feel very confident that they would be able to start July 1 as well. And then our next contract consideration was George O'Days, and this is a locker replacement at Westside. So as you know, we have about 2,000 lockers here at Westside, but about 1,700 are in need of repair. So we've done an internal audit addressing which lockers needed to either be fully replaced or just the mechanics of the lockers replaced. This has been challenging in the sense that identifying a vendor who was able to do this work and also achieve the supplies that were needed to replace the mechanisms on each locker. So George O'Days was the recommended vendor, and there is about 1,200 lockers that would be either completely replaced in terms of the bank of lockers, so a whole locker unit if all of the lockers were not functional, or the lockers that needed to be either the bolt or the actual mechanism needed to be replaced. And that was for $346,986. And then our last was Close Education, and this was for literacy, math, and dyslexia screening licenses, and this was for $260,800, and this was to be paid from ESSER.
Thank you, Nicole. Questions regarding these 4 contracts? Joyce.
One of the largest
issues we had with, other than cost, but, Illinois Central Schools and transporting the students was, I don't know, the lack of transporting the students to say it in one way. What do we have in this contract to ensure that the students will get transported? And if not, what kind of penalties might be involved if they're not transported like they should be? So we don't run into the same situation that we ran into with Illinois Central, not showing up to pick up the kids.
Sure, that's a good question. I don't know if Peter from First Student necessarily wants to dive in on his recruitment efforts, but they will start negotiations if their contract is accepted with the current union that Illinois Central also partners with. Those negotiations, along with some competitive wages, they feel confident that they will have all the drivers necessary to fulfill all of our routes.
Yeah, Nicole, Peter Rudnick here with First Student. Thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Thank you
Awesome.
for joining us.
So just to give you a little background on, one, working with and understanding, the community, working with Nicole and Paige, understanding the challenges that have been faced. We took a analytical approach of looking at, what does the current wages look like in the market versus where we need to be, because, we're not getting, currently the students aren't getting transported to school, right? As well as they can be, not all of them are receiving that same service. So the current wage scale with Illinois Central is roughly 18 to 22.75 an hour. We're starting above the top end of that scale now, moving up to roughly about $31 an hour for the most senior driver, really providing, it's above the 90% for similar CDL driver positions in the market. So we do feel comfortable that, one, we're going to be able to attract those drivers that are needed, as well as we don't have other contracts under this union where drivers will be able to pick those routes that aren't Gary Community School Corp routes. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that is faced, is the ability that drivers can choose those other routes. Additionally, we do have a very attractive sign-on bonus, not only for current drivers, but for new. But back to your initial question of what the performance penalties, there are liquidated damages if we aren't able to meet our end of the operation.
And I believe, if I understood the contract, there are provisions that allow either party to move on from the contract in the event that we aren't able to achieve the service levels that we'd hope for. But I think, I think we've had a lot of conversations on this issue. Obviously, there's a number of the staffing issues that other districts face and that Illinois Central has faced are not unique to Gary Community Schools. And, I think, one thing that I think we have to keep in mind is there's a bit of an unknown quality, I think, in terms of what we may encounter, because it's a very competitive market and there's a scarcity of drivers. And so, Mr. Rudnick, I think what I hear you saying is you've got a strategy for how to attack that competitive market, but time will tell how that plays out.
That is correct. As soon as a contract is awarded, we get to work on the recruiting efforts, because this is something that you can't wait till the summer months to begin that. And really, it's a full team approach.
How many drivers will you need for Gary Community Schools?
So looking at the model that we've anticipated, again, understanding the data that we were given in the RFP process, we're looking at about 50 drivers.
And Mr. Rudnick, I understand that there's an opportunity to kind of be creative with routes, and I just wonder if you can kind of discuss how do you try to optimize costs, right, between the cost of staffing for one more bus versus the cost of gas for more miles driven. What kind of goes in that calculation, just kind of confirm that you're willing to work on the routing itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is something that, I've discussed both with Nicole and Paige. And, once we're able to get into that information, into the raw data sets, we have a team through First Planning Solutions. It's essentially a team of about 40 routers, and that's their full job. They currently help us in terms of first student around North America route about 30,000 buses annually. So, looking to them for support immediately to work in a collaborative partnership to, make it as most efficient as possible. So there are a few variables that go into that, time on the bus. We want to make sure that we're not having extremely long routes for the students, but that's where we'll start, right? Is taking that information to right size and make sure we've got the right routes to support the corporation.
Yeah, because there is a national driver shortage, can you speak to those liquidated damages that will be available if, in fact, you can't meet these obligations?
Yes, I believe, and let me pull that up. So in the contract, it is a penalty above what would the normal route rate would be. So you'd see, so for instance, if the route rate is X, it'd be X plus, I believe it's $300 per day for not running, Nicole. I just didn't have that contract open.
And I'll look through it right now.
But it's above what we would be receiving in terms of cost for the daily route.
This is Commissioner Kabaki. While Nicole is looking for that, what is your history over the past year with bus drivers?
Well, in different, different markets, we've had different challenges, and we approach each area as trying to find what's going to make the most sense in terms of a strategy to get more drivers. Now, I do have with me my team, Jason Kierna and Chris Iddings. I don't know if we can have Jason unmute to talk at least about Chicagoland and the the recruiting process.
Yeah, Jason, go ahead. We've unmuted you.
Jason, did you step away? Well, I can talk a little bit more, unless Chris Iddings is on.
Yeah, we're working on unmuting him, but
Gotcha. All good. So one of the things is we have a tracking system to make sure that we're following up with every candidate, making sure that we've got a transparent look for both our district partners in what our shortcomings are versus what we have in the pipeline to fill those gaps. Yeah.
can you speak a little bit? So one of the challenges that we faced with Illinois Central is the timing of when those routes are called off, so from our understanding, those routes are getting called off at 5, 6 in the morning because the driver says they're not going to show up. One, how do you anticipate that working for your organization, and how will you fill that gap when that happens?
Yes. So our initial intent for every, for the routes that we have, so say it's 50 routes, right? You'd want to staff at least a minimum of 10% above that route number, right? That's the minimum goal. You'll always continue to hire. We're starting to try to get to, 120% at those rates, but 110% staffing is the initial. So if you have, say, that 110%, you then plan for the standby drivers to be able to take on those routes immediately. Now, if, for instance, you don't have those standby routes, you do have to plan for what route consolidations we can do in terms of an A, B, C, and plan and so forth in case you get call offs. Because it's not you know, that's not unique to the industry, right? It's you'll see call offs when you have flu come through, you have call offs in, you know, different capacities that way. But it's planning to make sure you know what's the next step in case that does happen. But standby drivers are your first and you know, first target of defense.
And one of the challenges we've had with Illinois Central as the current vendor is they basically say, well, that's our problem. We've got to fill the route if they don't have a driver. How do you approach that under this agreement?
Yeah, so our goal is to fill the route, right, and find one if it's got to be consolidation, work with what's going to mitigate the the least impact on the student's time in school, right? You know, is that doubling back? Is that possibly two routes taking on the missed route or the open route? And again, that's understanding the routing details, and that's where our team helps to plan, that staffing shortage plan, right, in case it happens.
Okay, thank you. Nicole or Paige, I see you. Paige, I didn't realize you were on earlier when I noted you were not here, so thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in from your vacation. Anything you want to add regarding this contract?
I would just have to say that it's been very refreshing to have the conversation with the first student. I appreciate them being very, very flexible on their conversations with us when we talk with them about the needs that we have and the specific concerns that we have. I definitely feel like we need to have a collaborative relationship with whichever vendor we have. And can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, you're clearing up now.
Okay. And I absolutely believe that they have a plan going forward with increasing the wages for the drivers. I know that they've already. We're going to have better quality of services to be able to retain some of our students that we lost to the bus trips, recoup them back.
Good. Wes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would someone from the transportation company help me understand? I believe it's on page 7, section 14.4.3. Possess a satisfactory driving record and a criminal history record. What does that exactly mean?
Mr. Rudnick, are you there?
He's got on. There we go.
Sorry, it muted me. Yeah, so making sure that we have that. So give me 1 second. I'm actually pulled up directly from our book, our hiring side. So give me 1 second. Jason, feel free to jump in if you fix your audio.
Yeah, this is Jason Kieran. I'm with First Student as well. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what that means, and it's state specific, is that every driver that we hire will go through, we have a centralized unit that goes through all of our employee standards. And every employee that applies for a job with First Student, we run them through an extensive criminal background check as well as a motor vehicle history check. And that check not only has to meet state standards, but if there's any specific standards that the school district has in place, that the school corporation has in place, we would also apply those on top of the state standards that are in place. So it's a dedicated team that we have to ensure that every single employee that we have that's transporting students is fit and able to perform those duties and is safe as possible and as can be.
And just to add a little bit more to that, so the motor vehicle record side, we're making sure that any candidates don't have any more than 3 moving violations or 3 minor accidents in the past 3 years. If they exceed that, they'll be flagged in the system. They won't be able to move forward. We make sure that they're meeting and examining all of the motor vehicle records just to make sure that we're not seeing any unsafe driving habits from any driver candidates.
What about on the criminal history side? Are there? Could you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. So an applicant's entire conviction history is viewed, and it's viewed holistically. So if you have a DUI, a felony conviction, you're flagged in the system, you're not going to be able to move forward. We want to make sure that any applicants who will end up being with students has a safe record, when it comes to any criminal history. And then additionally, from a physical examination, we make sure that we are providing that to make sure that they're able to handle any emergency situations, can handle, physical dexterity performance tests, as well as we do drug screening before applicants come on board, as well as we do have randoms throughout the year.
Hearing and vision?
That is part of the physical dexterity performance test.
Okay. And I think one last question back to the driving record. Are these CDL certified folks? Is there a certain CDL level that has to be?
There is, and there are, we do hire for those who don't for our van work, but we'll also train up drivers who don't have their CDL but want to possess it. So we do provide training for that as well.
Thank you.
Can you speak a little bit to the investment you're going to make in the community for the facility where you'll keep the buses? And Nicole mentioned that you are looking at property. I don't expect you to disclose those details necessarily, but can you speak to us about, is that in the city of Gary, outside the city of Gary? What kind of investment do you expect?
Yes, so it is inside the city of Gary. We have worked diligently with our real estate team as well as some local landlords. There is a plot of land that's already begun to be built for a state-of-the-art transportation facility, because we understand that it's one thing to increase the wages and make it an attractive on paper, but you have to have a place that is welcoming to drivers. By providing this state-of-the-art facility, we feel that we're going to be able to bring that experience to the drivers who service the corporation. Additionally, some of the other items that we'll be bringing in is a partially new fleet. We're looking at about 30 to 40 new vehicles. Right now it's about timing in terms of once the contract is signed and we can place our order with Thomas. But we do want to make this really a place where drivers want to come to work, and not just it's not one where it's okay. It's got any connotation of you've got old buses. It's not a place where you want to hang out between your routes. We really want to be able to bring in a changing culture where drivers want to be there, and other employees, of course, that service the district, monitors, technicians, and then the district staff as well.
Will you be looking to hire locally as much as you can in the Gary community?
No, absolutely. It's important to us to make sure that we have good people that know the area, and we're offering those opportunities.
Great. Other questions for Mr. Rudnick or the team regarding this particular contract. You know, one thing I do want to emphasize is something that Dr. McNulty touched on, and that's the collaboration and cooperation, really working together here. That is of paramount importance, I know to the team on the ground, but to us here at DUAB as well. And so Mr. Rugnet would ask that, you know, you commit to that and stay committed to that throughout the engagement.
No, absolutely. And partnership is extremely important to us, you know, and it isn't just a vendor relationship that we're looking for. You know, we really want to come in and be invested not only for, you know, the teams that we're serving, the community and the students as well.
Thank you. We do have 3 other contracts, and we spent a lot of time on the bus contract. Are there questions regarding either the janitorial services, locker replacement, or the screener licenses?
And do you have the janitorial services vendor line as well? Any questions for direction?
RJB, right?
RJB, yes. The one, I do have one question, and Nicole, or I don't know who's appropriate to answer this, but when we did this contract before, there was an attempt to hire existing staff with the district. Obviously, those staff work for a different vendor now, but depending on their circumstances, will RJB be looking to hire any of those staff who want to stay with the district?
Yes, absolutely. And we've internally worked with our current provider, and we'll work with the next one as well to make sure that any staff that is currently working with the district is serviced and hired back on if eligible with this new company as well.
Other questions regarding those? On the locker replacement, can you speak a little bit to the overall rationale there? What I know we're not replacing all of the lockers, but we're strategically replacing certain blocks of lockers. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So we identified certain banks, or they're inset lockers. So there might be 10 units attached into a bank. If 9 of those are non-functional, then that bank will be the ones that are replaced entirely. If there's only a few that are not functional, then it'll be the actual mechanism. If it's able to be replaced, that'll be repaired. This is kind of just a unique set of work. There aren't a lot of companies that do this type of installation, as well as have the mechanical parts to do the repairs as well.
Okay.
What would have been the overall cost to replace the lockers in general and not try to repair the broken ones?
I believe, I think it listed in here, there were, have it in front of me, the amount of lockers that were being fully repaired and the amount that were just being replaced. I believe the majority of them were being replaced and a few of them were being repaired.
The question is, what would the cost have been? How much more would it have cost to just replace the lockers rather than try to repair the broken ones?
Would have had to replace the entire bank of lockers. So it would have, yes, it would have been drastically more. We can't just replace one unit. You would have to repair the entire.
So you do not have a dollar amount that you can tell me that it would cost to replace all of the lockers versus make the repairs or fix these? That's the question I'm asking.
No, I don't know the cost to repair or to fully replace all of the lockers.
Thank you.
And to clarify, the capacity of the school, I know what percentage we are, but we are not replacing every locker in the building. They're being strategic about, okay, certain hallways doesn't have a hallmark in it, and they're only using the hallways that anticipate to be used.
And it's about 1,900 lockers, right? Then what we come up with, about half the students, right?
Yes, so we have 2,000 lockers. There's about 1,700, or I'm sorry, 1,200 that will need to be replaced or repaired.
Right, so out of the 2,000, 1,200, they had to be replaced or repaired, so we are talking about a large number of them. I personally would have preferred to see what it would cost to replace them all, as compared to try to repair some of the salvage.
Some of the existing.
Because I think you're gonna run into the same problem again in the very near future.
Other questions regarding these contracts? Okay. Well, why don't we take them as a group? Well, we can split them out or take them as a group if there is a difference of opinion, but as to these, I would entertain a motion.
Question on the motion, Mr. Chairman, if I may, is there, do you want the dollar amount stated or just the approval of the contract?
I think just, I think how we have done it is up to the amount listed in
Contract as presented.
the contract as presented.
Okay. I would move on the, first student bus transportation contract as submitted and as, quoted by the vendor. I would move that we accept that contract.
You want to do all of them at once?
I'd be happy to if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. I would make the same motion for RJB Properties and the janitorial services. George O'Dave's locker replacement at, West Side, and also the, close education, literacy, math, and dyslexia screener licenses, all as presented, in the contracts.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Joyce,
Yes.
Ms. Kabaki,
Yes.
Chairman McAdam,
Yes.
passes 5-0.
All right, all four contracts are approved. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. I appreciate those from the vendors joining us to answer questions. That does conclude our scheduled business for today. Is there any new business to come before the board today? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.